Well, good afternoon and welcome to the principal's office. I am Principal Edward Gordon, and I'm so glad you have tuned in for this weekly broadcast where we'll be interviewing educational stakeholders who have made a significant impact for themselves, for others, and with others in education. In the book, 15 Valuable Laws of Growth, written by Dr. John C. Maxwell, he talks about the law of modeling. The law of modeling states it's hard to improve when you have no one but yourself to follow. Today, I am grateful to have another special guest who's making a significant impact in education, Mr. Corey Rhodes. Good afternoon, Mr. Rhodes.
Good afternoon, Principal Gordon. How are you? Thank you for this opportunity.
Oh, I'm excited for this conversation that we are about to have. So before we
Yes,
get
sir.
started, I would like to start off with a brief introduction of our guest today. Corey L. Rhodes is the Chief Executive Officer of Rhodes Learning Group, LLC. Corey has over 25 years of experience in the field of education. Corey uses his experiences as an entrepreneur to work as an educational, business, and organizational development consultant. Corey has worked in urban, suburban, and rural school districts. Corey is a native of Norfolk, Virginia, and a proud father of two sons, Christopher and Jonathan. Corey has the following professional affiliations and recognitions. He has served as a national panelist on a Leaders in the Pandemic presented by the Champions Village. He is a member of the Association for Supervision and Curriculum Development, ASCD. He is a recipient of the Norfolk Public Schools School Bell Award. He also received the Children's Harbor Award in recognition of contributions to early childhood education. He has been recognized as a Virginian Pilot Future Leaders in Leadership Under 40. He has received multiple recognitions by Cambridge College alumni for his educational leadership. He is a proud member of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated, the Middle Eastern Province, and has received chapter leadership recognition by the Greenville alumni. He also serves on the Day Care Council, which he was appointed by Governor Mark Warner. Again, audience, help me welcome to the show, Mr. Corey L. Rhodes.
Thank
Well, good
you. Thank you
afternoon,
so much,
Corey.
man.
All right. Thank you for being on the show. And this is to start off by please share with the audience what is your story?
My story is a kid who grew up as a single parent household, didn't have much communication with my father. It's not my choice. But I was a dreamer. And one of the things that I hold on to is not letting your environment define what you can become. Uh, and so I had a beach cruiser, and that's all I needed, And I took my bike and I rode to different neighboring subdivisions and rode around different parts of the city because I wanted to know how people live. I'm a visual person, so I wanted to see, if I continued down the path of making good choices, where would I end up at? And I'm a huge proponent of diversity. So I've always wanted to see how people can do this exact same thing, but differently. And I'm a person who really understands the meaning of resiliency, not to give up. And I'm a person that that word no doesn't always apply to you consistently. You have to find the right yes to get to where you need to be. So that's my background in a sense.
Of thank you very much for sharing your story, a portion of your story. And one thing that really stands out is about the fact that you are a dreamer, and dreamers are visionary. And I just like the fact that you went out to see what is out there in the world, see out there in other communities, and that helps to shape your future and what you want out of life and what you want to achieve and accomplish. So I really appreciate you sharing a portion of your story and also talking about the power of having a vision for yourself and also for others. So I want to say and ask a question: what excites you in the morning?
So the question was, what do I think excites people?
Sorry, what excites you in the morning? What wakes you up in the morning?
Oh, to make a change that will leave my name and my legacy on the right side of history, basically.
Okay. And in reference to the work that you are doing now, just share with the audience that legacy work and legacy building that you are involved in at this very time in this season of your life and the mission that you're on.
Well, I have been very fortunate in my career to have worked in 31 schools, urban, suburban, rural, charter, and public. So I understand the infrastructure of how schools are run. I understand policy and data, the instructional aspect. But this stage of my life is really getting people who are not truly familiar about the educational process and what it takes to make successful schools move. And I found a new passion in regards to partnering with corporate sponsors to make a profound impact on things that school really have been lacking. And, as a former principal like yourself, you're giving discretionary funds, you're giving Title One, you're giving Title Two, and those monies are earmarked and it goes to a specific purpose. But schools need so much more outside of the money that is, allocated by central office. And that's where I found my new passion. One of the things, Ed, that we have to continue to do things to build the morale around schools and school leaders. And so that's why I have found my niche in this pandemic, because I have been a teacher. I've been assistant principal. I've been a principal. I've taught college for 9 years. And so I understand their side of it. And so because I understand it, I know how to negotiate with corporate sponsors to fill in the holes that they ordinarily couldn't have had because of the line of communication that I have with the schools and the school districts. And it really touches my heart. The people, especially, and I appreciate you being a sponsor for that with the PPE supplies. And yes, they were giving PPE supplies, but we all know situations come up in a school that is unforeseen. And so, you don't want teachers and principals to be stressed out if they go through this PPE supplies relatively quickly, then they have to wait for another set of disbursement. And that was a huge gap. And I also realized there's the small things that schools and teachers love, such as paraphernalia, school shirts, and schools having to decide, are we going to, buy a bulk order of sanitizer, or we're going to buy some T-shirts with the school mascot on it. And unfortunately, those kind of things have been put on the back burner. But those things build huge morale with schools because it exemplifies school culture, and it exemplifies a morale that we love what we do. And that is what I have found my niche in, doing the things that made me wanted to get in this business now year 26. So I love it.
Very good. It's very interesting about your work at this period of time of closing the gaps that I'll say in terms of funding and resources to ensure that those basic needs for our teachers are in place, and also that area around culture and climate to be able to bring the improve the morale and the school spirit by just the branding of the building, just reinforcing those core values through shirts and where everything else, and those are important, and so many times is overlooked Okay, we're about of course, the curriculum is important, instruction is important, assessment is important, but meeting the basic needs of your staff and students is very important as well. And also tapping into the culture and climate piece of your school and environment is important as well. It's all of it working together, and we cannot put emphasis on certain things, not leave out the basics as well as the morale and culture. So I'm glad that uh, this is your niche. I'm glad that has been your calling and the work that you're doing. And I know that the schools that you are partnering with, as well as the corporations that are assisting with you on the mission, is a benefit and is a win for everyone. So I'm glad, again, to have this opportunity to speak with you today, but also to share the work that you're doing with the audience. So definitely keep up that work, and it is definitely needed. All right.
Thank you.
So I want to think about now in terms of what is a book that you have read or are reading now that is impacting your thinking or the work that you're doing.
Well, I have much profound respect for Principal Khalife, and he is moving the needle at a rate that is unheard of. And he's been able to tap into the lives of school leaders and teachers in his own unique way. And I really love what he does. And every chance I get an opportunity to tell him, I love his work and I respect his craft. But his recent book, Terms of Equity, you have to go read it. It is a profound book to really understand where we are and where we need to go. That's one book. But because I'm a CEO and run a company, I'm also thinking outside the box that traditional schools, because of the age of the buildings, school districts going to have to think, differently about facilitation and housing of students. So I was reading Robert Kiyosaki book about real estate and how commercial buildings now are starting to become new schools. And, I put in a group and people thought that I was crazy, but they went and researched. There are some school districts right now who have bought movie theaters because of the ventilation. And if you look at the turnkey aspect of, getting a building ready, up and ready for the next school year versus spending $10 million, and that's going to take 2 or 3 years. You don't have 2 or 3 years. Your school is old, teachers are getting sick, students are getting sick, parents don't feel that their child is safe. I'm looking at how real estate, commercial real estate specifically, is impacting the decision making of school board members and superintendents, whether they decide they're going to close their school or do we going to create a new ground lease, a net lease for a building that's been vacated due to the pandemic, due to unemployment and not making sales. So I'm looking at the education side, but I'm also keeping a pulse on the business side as things shift in this pandemic.
Very good. I'm smiling because in my work as a mentor and coach for principals, I'll start backwards. I was just recently having a conversation with an administrator in New Jersey about space and facilities. And I told her, I said, and it's a charter school, you guys start thinking outside the box. You can't just think about, all right, let's buy another school building or whatever. But what are the other buildings in your community that you can look into to purchase? And I was telling her story. I said I was a principal of a charter school in Camden, New Jersey, and our school we took three floors out of a hospital, okay, and converted it into a, okay. You have to increase your thinking, think outside of the box in terms of providing facilities to provide schooling facilities and fulfill your mission. So that so I was just I was excited about what you were saying, and never thought about tapping into the books and resources of real estate developers and mix it in terms of our need for education. This is the kind of thinking that we must have. The second thing I wanted to say, based on your comments, we're talking about the book by Principal Baruti Kapele. He's also been a long time a mentor for myself when I started my career 20 years ago, and I've been supporting his work and his journey. But before our time together this afternoon, I was on a training dealing with new harassment, intimidation, and bullying laws in the state of New Jersey. But also, schools in the state of New Jersey have to have in place a new diversity, equity, and inclusion plan that goes from now to 2025. And his text and the information there should be a starting point for some conversations that we should be looking at to be able to put in these schools in our plan for the next 5 years to make sure that we're meeting the needs of our staff and our students. So I was just excited about what you're reading right now, the work, and how you're thinking. And I would say for everyone in the audience, this is the type of resources that we should be tapping into. And we have to definitely stop limiting our thinking, okay, of what it used to be like, the traditional facilities, and really think out of the box so that we can meet the needs of our students in this day and age. So I appreciate you. You say something, I get excited about what you're saying. So that's definitely great. Let's continue. Let's talk about mentorship and coaches. For you, I know the answer already, but I was asking anyway. Do you have a mentor or coach in your life? And if so, what is a lesson learned by that mentor or coach that has impacted your life?
Clearly, Dr. Joseph Christopher Melvin, who's just so happened to be a fraternity brother, but he's been in the business. He's retired, and he is a assistant principal / principal coach in Columbia, South Carolina. And I know that, you have roots in Carolina, but one of the things that Dr. Melvin is he's a master is putting systems in place so that when you are no longer there, those systems are effective, they're consistent, and they bring the desired results that you need to show growth, improvement, or exceed the standards. And I've seen him from a principal and throughout his career, and having served as a superintendent in two different districts, Virginia, and how he's able to formulate the right team in, and not only get the buy-in, but they understood where they were at that particular time and what was the end result. So he taught me the value of creating and implementing strategic systems and processes, that fits where you are in real time, and the ability to track, progress and how to make the adjustments on the fly to where you always maintain a collaborative leadership effort. And that's what I learned from him. I just talked to him a couple of days ago, and even retired, he is still able to see the trends in education and where we're going. And one of the things that he taught me to really keep my finger on the pulse is they call it extended learning or the loss of learning. And on where you are in the United States, that is the hot trend. And I put that in the group the other day, besides social emotional learning and MTSS. But the loss of learning, it has affected all school districts, and even politicians have talked about it, how they're going to address that issue. So that is my mentor, and he's helped me pick out my research topic for my certificate advanced graduate studies degree. And when I became a teacher, and he felt that there was a profound need for black males in kindergarten. I thought he was crazy, but he saw the vision and he saw the need, he saw the lack, and I student taught kindergarten, and I went on to teach K, and it really changed my career and it opened up doors. So he's a visionary too. So yeah, that's a mentor that I have, and I had also had one, but he went on to glory, and his name was Dr. James Henry Robinson Jr. And he was a very sharp man, and he had served in education, uh, also in the central office level, and he retired. He was a assistant professor in school leadership, and I learned a lot from Dr. Robinson, a lot.
Very good. Well, thank you for sharing about these two giants in education and their mentorship to you. And one of the things that you're saying that Dr. Melvin has really helped you with and really expresses a lot is about systems. And that is one thing that is not always taught. And it's good that you have that mentorship to learn systems and the value of systems, because without systems, every year you could be spinning your wheel, okay, and not making true progress in your school building, in your organization. And when you do have systems, another thing that you mentioned that Dr. Melvin is doing is about when he leaves that district or that school setting, whatever, is still running and it's still improving, growing up and maturing. You can get into a situation when you don't have systems in place. A new school leader comes into that organization and it's like starting all over again. Okay. And it's not picking up where it is, and it continuous improvement. And it ties into Dr. Melvin's thinking about strategic leadership. Okay, identifying where you are right now and always putting a plan for improvement, monitoring improvement, assessment, making adjustments. But if you don't have that exchange of information, exchange of support through transitions, school districts and schools are already struggling because there's always they're always starting over. And so I'm glad that you have experienced and impactful and influential mentors, and I'm glad that those systems and strategic leadership is definitely being utilized. So thank you for sharing about the impact those mentors have and had on your life. So let's talk a little bit more about your time in early childhood education. And I really want to hear if you can share with anyone in the audience, like what is a professional development experience that you will encourage anyone that is a teacher in early childhood to actually attend, because it'll be beneficial for their career growth?
I would say right off the bat immediately is classroom management, because without effective classroom management, students can't learn and you cannot teach. Bottom line. The impact to establish a level of trust, a level of communication, because me being a male in a female predominant industry, you have to understand where you stand, and it doesn't necessarily mean a negative way, but you have to learn how to find your way to communicate and be part of the team and find out where you fit in and do your part. So I think that's in early childhood, being able to connect with them, one of the key things in terms of early childhood is being able to connect the curriculum to how those children really live outside of that classroom. And some people call it RTI. Some people call it culturally responsive to teaching, but I just really call it the ability to connect with them and get them to understand how what you're teaching is applicable to how they live. And that's the beauty of early childhood, is that you get to be creative. You get to paint a story. You get to share with them your own personal life. And that's what I love so much about early childhood. They understand you, they can connect with you because they're still dreaming. They still wanting to aspire to be the very best that they can. They don't have any fears. And that is the beauty of early childhood.
Yeah, that's wonderful, and it just brings a smile to my face because for my career, I've had the experience of leading students and staff preschool all the way through high school, and I would say yes. Sometimes there'd be a challenging conversation with a teacher or a parent, but I just love to go in that preschool classroom and get on the floor and play and learn with them and they're interested about me and want to hear what I have to say, and they want to talk and share what they have visualized this play area to be, and I like to be able to dream with them. And I definitely agree with what you're saying. Early childhood is an amazing time period, and like I said, that creative energy, those ideas, and I just hope that you know teachers in that grade level, that development, we do not do anything that hinders that creativity of our students, and that is really key. That it continues past that early childhood development stage, and that they continue to dream, to imagine, be creative, because that is going to really open up doors in their learning beyond the early childhood and early development stages as well. So I too enjoyed my time leading early childhood educators and also students. So thank you very much for sharing that. So let's talk a little bit more in reference to what do you see as the biggest challenge in education today?
Switching the mindset from the traditional way of doing things pre-COVID to doing things in a non-traditional contents in the middle of COVID and post-COVID, as the policies have to be revised to reflect on where we are and how students are learning. It has to reflect on a hybrid model versus the 5 days a week, 6.5 hours in the building. It has to reflect on different test taking strategies because you have students who are teaching or learning at home and then learning in the building. Uh, we have to teach them digital citizenship, which is the new form of classroom management through technology. We have to show them there are different ways uh, to get information outside of the normal textbook. And we have to learn how to maximize those learning management systems, to create an opportunity for personalized plans that specifically lend themselves to where they are and how you're going to move them forward. We need to have more conversations about artificial intelligence and how that comes into play. And we need to have more of a conversation about STEAM and identifying students where they fit in that acronym to help build a roadmap for success for them. And this is one of the things that I'm really going to be doing in my mentorship program in South Carolina, an alternative school. But we have to find a way, Ed, to get our students to learn the value of entrepreneurship and financial literacy, because we are going from one aspect of money to another aspect of money. And they need to understand that times have changed. And so we just have to do things differently based on where the country and the world is going. And yes, we do stick, to the curriculum, but we just have to be, again, that word creative and not use what we have been using, because what we've been using pre-COVID is not going to work. And we just have to change the way that we think.
Very good. Can you share with the audience about your mission and vision in terms of Rose Learning Group and the work that you're doing?
Well, we have multiple legs to Rose Learning Group. I really do the corporate sponsorship side. So I meet with business owners and we talk about, we strategize, and we implement plans to support the schools and not just necessarily the instructional side. I mean, central office and other people can do that, but the things that build morale and the incentives. So that's one division. And then the second one, we have the PD side. So we partner with central office and principals and find out what are their needs, and then we tailor-made our PD based on those specific needs. And right now we're doing one again in next month in Williamsburg County with the MTSS. And so if we closely look at, the money, the CARES Act money, and how do we, justify what we're doing in our proposal. So that's one aspect. Then we have the mentoring part, which I love because at this stage, I've had a successful career and there's nothing that I haven't achieved that I didn't achieve. But now I'm at a point in life, it's better to give than to receive. And I want to be able to leave a legacy beyond my own two children, the things that were put in place for me to get to where I am now. And that took mentors. So that's in the Rose Academy is the third leg. And then, of course, the other one is the business acquisition. And I'm very excited about looking at opportunities to acquire existing education companies to expand the brand, United States and globally. So those are the 4 areas of my business.
Very good. And on the screen for the audience, rhodeslearninggroup@gmail.com. And that is how you can get in touch with Mr. Corey Rhodes to learn more about his work and also see how you can partner with him in the work that he is doing. And again, it's rhodeslearninggroup@gmail.com. And I'll leave that on the screen for a little longer for the audience to be able to write down. So one thing that you mentioned is a reference to, and you continuously mention about leaving a legacy, and you are a father too. And as we go into this Father's Day weekend, can you just share with the audience a lesson learned about being a father and fatherhood as we go into this weekend?
Well, I have 2 boys. One is 12 and the other was 15. And then this year they'll be switching to 13, 16. And one of the things that I think is important as a father is to spend so much time with them when they are little, to plant and set the foundation for good habits for them to exemplify as they get older, and to be authentic and be vulnerable. And I thought about this yesterday, Ed, that I think, we tell men that we need to be providers and we need to be protectors, and that is true. But we also need to let boys, particularly, it's okay to be vulnerable. Crying is one emotion that you need to go through. And the reason why I think that's important is because if a man at some point is going to be a father or a mentor, whether it's, if you have boys or girls, you need to show compassion and empathy and sympathy. And so I always have taught my children to be you, be the authentic you, and always do what's right, even though you may not receive right back towards you, and always make decisions in terms of how you want to be treated. You treat that person that way, and always be consistent, whatever it is that you want to do. I think those things are important. And then as they transition from, getting, to the teen, preteens and the teens, you have to give them space and grace to grow and to make mistakes. And then you redirect them, but you also put interventions in place so they understand why. Millennials, they move so fast and everything is so instant gratification, but they need to understand the process and why you should or should not do certain things versus just saying no and then you leave it unanswered. So that's why I think it's important as a dad. And you got to allow them space to grow. The same way that we wanted it when we was growing up, we have to give them grace in the same way. And in the right timing, you're able to come back and partake different things now that they're older because the timing is right. Everything is timing with being a father. It's time.
Yes. Well, thank you for sharing your advice and wisdom and experiences is definitely helping me as a single father as well, and also members in the audience. I know that there's many nuggets, wisdom that was just been expressed that's going to be helpful for us on this journey. And one thing that you mentioned is about time, spending time with your children, spending time with family, and this is a constant challenge that comes up in terms of education, in terms of that work-life balance. And can you just share with the audience how do you manage and work through this whole area of work-life balance as a educator, as a father? Can you just share with the audience?
Um, so the short end of your question is, I really utilize the metaphor Rome was not built in a day. And if you understand that, then you know that you can't do everything in one day. And you have to know within your heart what you cannot take on and what you can take on. And you have to understand the power of delegation. That is, and delegating doesn't mean that you're weak. It means that you have enough sense to understand that I don't either have the time nor the skill set to take this particular uh, assignment on. And it's okay for someone else who does it better, who does it quicker. But at the end of the day, it's all a team effort. And then you have to have enough wisdom to know you have to have rest. If you don't take care of yourself, you cannot be of service to anyone at all, personal or professional. Listen to your body.
Very good. Very good. That's thank you for sharing your wisdom and advice around work-life balance, something that we all need to continuously work through and learn. But thank you for sharing that advice to all of us. As we begin to wrap up our time together, and again, this is a audience of students, teachers, principals, superintendents, other educational stakeholders. What is some final advice or words of wisdom or a message that you would like to share with the audience at this period of time?
Pour into someone the same way someone poured into you, regardless of color, regardless of social economic status. Find someone that you feel that will listen and pour into them the same way someone poured into you. Take time to reinvent yourself and share the glows and the grows, the success and the failures. Because a lot of times you see one facade of a leader who's successful, but behind that success was a story. Behind that success was a process. And that is what I've encouraged people to do, is to find someone and connect with them and begin to pour into them the same way someone poured into you. That is priceless. And really, it's the right thing to do.
Very good. Well, thank you, Mr. Rhodes, Corey L. Rhodes, for being on the show this afternoon. And again, for our audience on the screen, we have Mr. Rhodes's email address at rhodeslearninggroup@gmail.com. Please reach out to this amazing educator who's making a significant impact in education and the innovative things that he is doing. Again, Corey Rhodes, thank you for being on the show this afternoon. It was a great conversation, and I learned a lot from you, and it definitely increased my thinking. So thank you very much for being on the show this afternoon.
It is
So
my honor, my pleasure.
very good. Thank you once again. So also for everyone in the audience, I just want to say thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Principal's Office, and join me again next Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll bring on another amazing educator who's making a significant impact for themselves, for others, and with others in education. I want to say have a wonderful weekend. Happy Father's Day to all our fathers. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful weekend. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.